classic oak leaves. I call them classic because it's in a pattern of 3, and that's very common. 3 acanthus leaves, 3 lobes, 3 leaves like this. Very common in ornamentation. They might not be anatomically correct, but from a carver's point of view, there's a lot of vigour in this sort of carving. And the reason why is because I've used quite a thick piece of wood to start with. Well, I see a lot of these oak leaves are carved quite flat, and that might be right, but actually this sort of depth of carving gives you a lot of energy, a lot of character to the piece. You could do this as a relief carving, taking the background away, as we do in other projects, but actually by removing the wood, cutting it all out, what you get is, first of all, an opportunity to put it against another piece of wood, so you've got a contrasting thing to fix it on. And also you can get at all these bits from the back if you need to, without having to clear away and do nice tidy junctions. Now this piece isn't finished. In other words, I've got no wax or oil on it, and I'll put a few notes about that in the download, also beneath the last video in the series. And the other final thing I'd say is that if you're fixing this to something else, then you would glue it, but you'd also pin it, and you'd put your pins in very discrete little areas, like in the junctions here, or in the grooves here, and you might even fill that a little bit with wax. So there's the carving. We're going to start at the beginning with the drawing and work our way all the way through to this little piece here. Here's my starting block of wood. You can see that it's fixed down to this board, this piece of plywood, with paper in between. This is called a paper sandwich, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But let's backtrack to the beginning. Here is my drawing. What's important about this, right at the start, is to think about the wood grain. In other words, how the fibres are orientating. If you think about this pencil, the fibres of the wood are orientated along here to make it strong. So we want the wood to orientate so that we have the strength through this weak part. So the grain must go in this direction. That's really important. So here's my starting piece of wood, and the grain, the fibres, are going in this direction. It's a bit of oak. I would clean this up so that I can see, have both sides nice and flat, so I can see it. And this drawing will go on here like this. So when I put the drawing on, I'm going to cut this out. Now you can use a scroll saw or a band saw. A coping saw is quite good. Takes a bit of time, but it's worth doing that because obviously if we get rid of this by sawing it out, we're saving ourselves a huge amount of time anyway. The other thing you can do is you can take a drill bit and you can actually drill through various points. That's the nice thing about an oak leaf. You can drill through these little eyes here and then join up your carving. So you could choose different bits and just drill those out first and then saw that out. So we have our piece of wood sawn out, and there it is. It's quite thick, as you can see, and that's because I want this full rounded shape. This is not very accurate, in the sense it's not very neat and tidy, but that doesn't matter, because if you think about it, this edge here is actually going to end up right down here, so all this wood is going to be taken away. So as long as we're approximately right, don't worry too much about getting this too exact. Even these holes, you see there's one here that I haven't really been able to get out. That one, it doesn't matter because that'll be far back and we'll be able to deal with that later. So get that cut out. Now, to put it onto the backing board, I'm using fairly thick paper. This is a watercolour artist pad paper rather than something too thin, and I'm using a diluted wood glue. So this is your basic woodworker's glue with about 30% of water, so a little bit thinner. And then I have used clamps like this to grip the whole thing across. So I've pushed it down like that, let it dry, and now it's ready to carve. So this is square on like this, which makes it easy to hold. So I'll hold that in the vise, the usual sort of way, using my vise on my bench, and with this settled, we're ready to start carving.